Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
We can make an impact, grab it, then take it. Okay, so let me get here and do this. So are you telling me there was no audio that entire time? Wow. Okay, so let's go ahead and redo that here. So I got, because I have to say it because it's very important. I'm sorry there was no sound there. Oh my gosh. Okay, so basically what I said was we're here on the after hours and we're actually doing this live archive sort of thing because we had a situation with the guest. So here we are with the archive show. I picked a good one. It's a Stormy Daniels episode. And what I wanted to say was is actually this show took place on March 30th, 2022, right? So the reason why Jim Goodall is also listed on the thumbnail because Jim Goodall stops by in hour one because this was one day after John Lear passed away. John Lear passed on March 29th of 2022. This show aired on March 30th of 2022. So one day after John Lear passed, the news is fresh in the UFO community at the time. And so, Jim Goodall, great friend of John Lear for many, many years, and talks highly of him and kind of gets to reflect one day after hearing that he passed away. So very impactful in the hour one. And while my audio was muted, I read something about John Lear. So John Olson Lear, December 3rd, 1942 to March 29th, 2022, was an American aviator and UFO researcher, a son of Learjet magnate Bill Lear. Lear set multiple records later, flying cargo planes for the CIA during the Vietnam era. In the 1980s, he began speaking of alien collusion with secret governmental forces. And in the second half of the decade, Lear was probably the most influential source of UFO information and conspiracy theories. And then, so I kind of just went into also Stormy Daniels, who I was saying surprised me. I walked away. I didn't know what to expect when I first originally watched this show. If you haven't seen this episode, I think you're gonna walk away feeling a little different too, as well, because just some of the things that she references, and I'll read her information though, just to get into it. Stormy Daniels, already well known as an adult film star, director, author, stand-up comedian, and for famously standing up to the president, has always had one foot in the paranormal. Although she has had unexplainable experiences dating back to her childhood, it wasn't until she moved into a very haunted house in New Orleans in early 2019 that things really took off. These personal experiences and the devastating effect it had on her and her loved ones inspired her to embark on a new adventure to discover the truth. In 2020, she had an intense experience at a location which resulted in the floodgates of supernatural being opened and unlocking skills that she didn't even know she had, which with each investigation and passing day, Stormy's gifts of mediumship and healing become stronger and are constantly being validated by both recorded evidence and some of the most respected individuals in the paranormal field. And so, what I was saying, I just finished that when I realized that my audio was not on. But I basically said, you'll be surprised by some of the names that she mentioned that she is actually working with in this paranormal field. It was kind of, blew my mind, and I walked away from it feeling a lot. It was walked away with the feeling of respect for what it was that she, how focused she was on this task at hand. So I think you'll feel the same way. Also, we had someone in the chat earlier that asked if she was going to be live. So no, this is archive, but I did say, depending on how you feel about the interview and how if she passes your sniff test, guys, then let me know and I'll reach out to her and we'll get her live on the after hours show. So let's do that, right? That also said as well that Dave takes the breaks during the show, so maybe we'll pop in during those 5-minute breaks and talk about some of the things that has transpired on the show. That way we can make it a little interactive since we are doing a live / archive show tonight. So here we go. Let's go ahead and get that started right now. Let me bring up.
You can find them on our website. We got a great show for you tonight. In hour number one, we're going to pay tribute to John Lear. This is a historic loss for the aviation industry and history in the United States. Who better to have him on Then Jim Goodall to talk about his friend who he lost today. Then in hour number 2, we're going to get spooky with the spooky babe herself. Stormy Daniels is going to be here to talk about her paranormal life as we learn all about that. We'll see what happens in hour number 3. It's a gong show tonight, but we are going to make it happen starting right now. Jim Goodall, we bring you in a somber night for you. And from all of us at Spaced Out Radio, we wish you the best and empathize with what you're going through tonight with the loss of your good friend, John Lear. How did you find out the news, my friend?
Bob Lazar called me, and he called. I was at the post office. My cell phone's ringing, and I got probably a crank call. And hey, it's Lazar. I said, well, you getting excited about me coming to give you a visit? And he said, well, yeah, but the reason I'm calling, Allie, his daughter, John Lear's daughter, didn't know who to call, and the only number that she could find was Bob Lazar's. So she called Bob. Bob didn't know who to call, and he said, well, I know someone who will know who to call, and that's Goodall. So he called me up, and that's I'm saddened, but I'm not surprised. The last 7 or 8 years of John's life, he'd been pretty much immobile, and there for a number of years, the doctors had him, on, officially medically prescribed batch of painkillers were all but killing him. I mean, he was sleeping for days at a time, and I didn't think he'd make it through 2015, and then either both his daughters or just Allie convinced him that maybe he should look at holistic medicine. So he got off opioids where he was sleeping for 4 or 5 days at a time, and started going with the alternative medicine, and it seemed to work. And I'm blessed that I saw him in it was the end of September, early October. I took a couple guys out to the backside of Area 51, and went to the north fence line at Area 51, and then we went to Tonopah Test Range. And all those places, the first time I ever went to the fence line at Tonopah, I was with John Lear. The first time I ever literally looked down and saw Area 51, we were on the top of Whitesides. I was with John Lear. And the next time I was able to see Area 51 from a different perspective, that was Freedom Ridge. And I was with John Lear. So virtually all my experiences in Nevada, and there's been a lot of them, were pretty much were part of my life with John Lear. And I was blessed. I've known him almost 50 years. And there's not that many people out there, and maybe there is, I don't know, but people don't keep their friends anymore like they used to. I do. My best friend this year we'll have been friends for 60 years, and I'll be his friend until the day I die or he dies. I wasn't surprised by Lear's death. When I saw him in September, October, he was extremely weak. I went reach out to shake his hand, and he could hardly get his hand up. And my heart just ached. And he was still the John Lear he's always been. I mean, this guy's a character, and he's a prankster, and he'll do stuff, and you think he's ready to pull a gun out and shoot you. He's so mad at you. And he's ripping you up one side down the other. And then you're looking, if you can look in his eyes long enough, you can see him twinkle. That's when you know he's feeding you a line of crap. He's just pulling your leg, and he just laughs. Oh, I got you again. So he's one of a kind. I think one of his flights, he was not escorting. He was flying O2 Skymasters. That's the Cessna Skymaster pusher puller. It's the O2, and he was taken off from Hamilton Air Force Base, which is in San Rafael, and Hamilton hasn't been around forever. beautiful base right on the north part of San Francisco Bay, and he was flying the O2s to Vietnam. And we're talking about an airplane that, you can go from St. Louis to Kansas City without really being concerned about fuel consumption. But I don't know if you want to go to Phoenix from St. Louis. So they're going 2,400 miles, and they've taken out the seats and they've shipped those. And they have they put extra gas tanks in the cockpit. So if Lear would have crashed on takeoff, he is surrounded by gas tanks and incinerated. But when he took off, the airplanes were so heavy, he got off the ground because I guess Hamilton had a fairly large runway. And he was trying to gain altitude, and he said, no, screw it. He just flew underneath the Golden Gate Bridge on his way to Hawaii. And when he got to Hawaii, he was fuel critical. I mean, he still had an hour or two worth of fuel left, but that's a really big Pacific Ocean. And fortunately, his navigation skills are right up there. And he was type rated. I think he said it was 58 or 62 different types of aircraft. Virtually almost every type of commercial airplane, from a DC-3 to a 707-320. He was and he loved flying. I mean, he started flying when he was 11 years old, and his dad, one of his dad's Lear jets. And he grew up and went to school in Switzerland. I think it was in Geneva, and very expensive prep school. And it turns out the Lear jet that we know today was actually designed by the Swiss, and it was going to be a fighter. And they ran out, their government, basically told them, no, we're not going to fund it. So they killed the program. But it was, all the hard work had been done. And Bill Lear, the really wheeler dealer he was, he bought the rights to the design of the jet, modified it to carry people. And that's what became the Lear 23. The very first Lear jets. And that's what John Lear was flying before he could legally fly. And on his 16th birthday, John Lear flew solo around the world in his dad's Lear jet. He had an FAI observer on board, which you must have, but he flew around the world, and he still, upon his death, he still held all 15 FAI records for, I can't hear you.
An incredible pilot and an incredible historian for aviation in the United States. He wasn't without controversy. For people who may not know John Lear, and we have a lot of people out there who will be like, you mentioned that he's part of the Lear family and everybody knows the Lear jet. I mean, take us through a quick rundown in time of who John Lear is.
Well, John Lear was really a soldier of fortune. In his adult flying career, he flew for 14 years for Continental Air Service. And people say, well, what's Continental Air Service? That is a subsidiary of Air America. He flew into places that weren't on the map. He landed on places that weren't supposed to have landing strips. When he was in Cambodia and Laos and Vietnam, he flew it. It's a Swiss short takeoff and landing aircraft, high wing. I think they're all turboprop now, and I'm not sure if his may have been turboprop. But he said he's landing on a 500 to 700 foot long runway that they chopped off the top of a mountain, and that there's jungle on both ends of the runway. So if you miss it, you're toast, and no one's coming to get you because you're in enemy territory. And he said sometimes if the crosswind was really too strong and he couldn't land, he would put his wheels down on the dirt runway, and he didn't have a right-hand door. So he would just push the stuff out the door as he taxied along. I mean, as he flew along the runway to go as slow as he could so he didn't damage the goods. And you weren't supposed to carry a gun, but he carried a gun. And he said there's be times he would be taken off and he'd been shot at. So he'd bank over there and he could see where the fire is coming from. And he'd go pop, 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 run a whole magazine and fly off to his next destination. And he did that throughout most of the Vietnam War for most of the people in the 60s and the 70s. His wife of 50 years, we won't go into all that, but they spent a lot of time in Beirut, Lebanon, back in the early 70s. And John really loved the Middle East. He loved Egypt. He loved Lebanon. His dad had friends in Iran and Iraq with the Shah. So it was just a part of the country he just enjoyed flying around, primarily because they don't have any rules. I mean, John was telling me he was ferrying a Lear jet from Santa Monica, and he's going to Miami-Dade. And he had it on autopilot, and he fell asleep. And it was just him in the airplane. And all of a sudden, he hit some turbulence, and it sort of woke him up. And he looked at his gas gauge, and it's getting critical. He's like, where in the hell am I? He was about 75 or 80 miles off the coast of Miami. So he turned in turned in during call air traffic control as though that this overflight of Miami was planned. He said no one to this day knew that he really had gone sound asleep. Oh, and I mean, he could have, there could have been a mid-air collision or whatever. But I mean, everything about John Lear was outrageous. Anybody who had the opportunity to go into John Lear's study, it was about 20 by 20 or 25 by 25, big office, but it was filled to the brim with memorabilia and stuff from all over the world. And there's a picture of John shaking the hand of G. Gordon Liddy, and then there's a picture of the Dash 80 upside down, signed by Tex Johnson, the pilot. You couldn't put any more pictures on the wall, and I was blessed that not a lot of them, but more than my share were mine that I had given him. And he was just someone that he was like he said, I'm a real life grown up howdy doody, because if anybody old enough, and I think you got to have a lot of this stuff or not at all, no hair, to remember who Howdy Doody was in Buffalo Bob. But John Lear looked like a grown up version of Howdy Doody. He had this reddish hair, freckles, and that twinkle in his eye, and he was always pulling pranks. But he was a member of Crush. You're not a warrior group, but it was a special operations group that he was part of. And like I say, he's been all over the world. He's met everybody, done everything in aviation that you could think of without being a military person or a NASA astronaut or whatever. And he had a good heart. But the thing I always remember about John Lear is he was a prankster. He always had a grin on his face because he was going to pull some crap on you when you weren't looking. And one of the other firsts I had with John is it was the day I met Bob Lazar. I met Bob Lazar because of John Lear. And it's ironic that Lear would call me, Lazar would call me to tell me that Lear had passed. But the way I met Bob Lazar was in early March of '89. They just announced the existence of the F-117. And John and I are going up from Las Vegas to Tonopah. We're going up US 95. We're just north of Scotty's Junction, and an F-117 flew right over us, about 1,500 feet off the road, sort of cutting about 45-degree angle on the road. And I about crashed the car, and we got into Tonopah. We grabbed a quick bite, and he said, "Well, I know right where to go." I said, "Where's that?" I says, "Well, I know guys who helped build some of the hangars down there." So we drive down out US 6 east of Tonopah, and about mile 14, the big sign that says Tonopah Test Range. The road, you were 18 miles to the gate, and there's a lot of activity there. And of course, this is like 1989. I mean, it's early, and the F-117s are housed and operational out of Tonopah Test Range. That's why there's so much activity. So we just drove along the north fence line, and we got to about 2 miles down the fence line. You can look right down, see the entire complex. You can see the whole runway. And I look out, and here comes a black fuzzy dot in the distance, probably about 20 miles out, with a light underneath it. Then it looks like a white or blue airplane, small, with a light. We figured landing lights, and there. I was saying there's got to be an F-117 and a T-38 chase. And Lear had his big binoculars, and he said, "Yeah, it's a 117." I said, "Yeah, it's black and it's shaped like a flying saucer." And the head-on view of an F-117 does look like a typical flying saucer. And the first time I saw it, because of the way the sun was shining off the facets, I thought it was changing shape. I know later on it wasn't, but it was just because of the faceted fuselage. So I have print film. I have a Nikon, I have a really good Nikon 200 millimeter lens. And thing comes into view, and I start taking pictures, and it was like a 10-year-old boy seeing a naked woman for the first time. My whole body was just vibrating. Went through the whole roll, 36 exposures. This is before digital. And when I got cotton mouth, a second. Excuse me. And then, we had 36 exposures of Kodacolor 100, which was a good fine grain color print film. I usually shot Kodachrome, which you'd have to send to Findlay, Ohio to get it processed, and that could take up to 10 days. And I wanted to know if I had any that weren't blurred, because I was vibrating so bad seeing the F-117 for the first time. I didn't know if any of them were any good. So we had a bite to eat at the Little Alien. By the time we got back to Lear's house, it was a little after 9 o'clock. All the photomats are closed. I was disappointed. He said, "Well, I got a friend coming over. Just moved here from Albuquerque. He's interviewing for a job out in the desert. He doesn't know what, but he's coming over. He should be here any minute." A few minutes later, knock on the door. Lear goes, answers the door, comes in, and it's Bob Lazar. He said, "Hi, I'm Bob. Just moved here from Albuquerque, and hopefully real soon I'll know if I have a job out in the desert doing something that I have no idea what." I said, "That's great." I said, and we were just shooting the bull about where he's coming from and whatever. And I said, I have some print film that I shot the F-117 today. He said, "Oh, wow." I said, "But I have print film, and I have to wait until tomorrow to go to a photomat and then either get it brushed and I can pick it up in the afternoon, or maybe it won't be until the next day." He said, "Well, I have a film processing unit at home, a C41 film processing, which was for Kodacolor 100. I said, he does processing for real estate agents. This is before, there weren't such things as digital cameras then. So he said, "I live over in West Charleston. Let's jump in my car and head over there." So we jump in his car, and we're about a block from Lear's place, and he stops and looks at me, and he said, "I feel sorry for that son of a bitch Lear." I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "The fool believes in UFOs. He's an idiot." I said, "I'm a nuclear physicist." if I can't prove it mathematically or put my hands on it, it doesn't exist. That was Bob Lazar. And I met Bob Lazar because, and only because, I was a friend of John Lear's. And I met so many incredibly wonderful people because of John. And because of John, more or less helped me, snoop on the government or in and around Area 51 in Tonopah. His strong interest in UFOs and things that go bump in the night. And of course, my love for aviation, which was his passion as well. It was a perfect friendship and a perfect fit. I admired John. He did most of his adult flying in extreme pain because of his broken feet. I don't know if you let's pretend this is a foot and this is a rudder pedal. In one of his crashes, his foot went like this, and his toes, both his toes, from both feet, reached his heels. That's why he was always in so much pain, because he had broke or shattered every bone in both feet, and he did it twice.
Son of a gun.
Yeah.
Son of a Jim, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. When we come back, we're talking about the life of John Lear, who passed away yesterday, I believe at the age of 85.
No.
And he is, or how old was he, Jim?
He would have been 80 come December. He was 79.
Pardon me. He was 79 years old, coming on 80, and passed away yesterday at his home. And we got Jim Goodall breaking down the legend of John Lear. Then in hour number 2, the spooky babe herself, Stormy Daniels, will be here to talk some paranormal, and we'll see if we can continue her through hour 3 as well. We'll see where we go here on Spaced Out Radio, coming up next. All right, we're clear. So far, so good, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Your hair looks incredible.
At least I have it. I just got some new medical. So if I start getting cross-eyed,
Well, we only got you for another 30 minutes here.
Yeah. So
Stormy is filming some paranormal stuff right now, so she we had to delay her until hour 2, and thank you, Jim, for hopping in on extremely short notice to do this.
Any time you need just some noise to fill in, for an hour or 3, if you're hard pressed, or if you just, hey, let's get that Goodall guy on again. Maybe we can get some. The
name Goodall is synonymous with free pass here.
Oh, okay, good. I mean, but
just want to interject. Shout out to Jim Goodall and his medical vape. Medical vape is what we'll call it. Shout out to Jim Goodall.
Anytime you would like me on, as a filler or just another head to, to talk to the world, to talk to your to your audience. And I had a ball with Lynn on Monday. Yeah. It was just fun.
I do.
Yeah, Damian Wyatt, I can go ahead and mute it during this break here. This is a show from March 30th, 2022. We had to jump in the archives. We had a guest snafu is what we'll call it. And we are sitting here listening to Jim Goodall talk about John Lear, who, as the airing of this episode, had passed away one day earlier. So you can feel it in his tone, and he's missing a friend here, and he's kind of just putting it all out there. Shout out to Jim Goodall. Shout out to Dave Scott with the long hair. And also shout out to Jim Goodall's medical vape. Love it.
I think that it was a very strong move for her, and there is no drama. There was, in San Francisco this past weekend, her and I, that was the first time we met. She was absolutely incredible and just a fun human being, and what a pleasure to meet with her. But she wants to concentrate on her rebellious ufology, which she'll be doing during the day, I believe during the week. And we are going to continue doing what we do at Spaced Out Radio. And Lynn is still a great supporter of what we do, and we are huge supporters of what she is doing. And you know what? We're in better hands because Lynn was here. And I did say to Lynn that at any point, if she ever wants to come back to SOR, the door is always open for her, because I love her. And Dave Hurley, her fiance, is incredible. And honestly, they are fantastic people. Fantastic people. And, we're going to miss Lynn around here. But like I said, she wants to concentrate on her own channel and do what she wants. And how do you say no? You can't.
Yeah, no. And if she wasn't as delightful as she is, it would have been, hey, well, goodbye then, and just turn around and walk.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. No, I just and we had 2 hours where boom like that.
Oh yeah.
And she told me what the subject was about a minute before we got on the air.
Well, you and her on Rebellious Ufology are going to make a great show. A great show. I mean, let
me say some shout outs real quick. Shout out to Angel, Angels Are Life, Damian Wyatt, Aloha Dave, and Joanne, Aaron Baca, Guy Calgary. Let's see, Resonant is here. Yes. Let's see, it's moved back. Let's see, before Lulu Bell, Susan Place, Brown Dwarf. Yeah, Cottonmouth, exactly. We know why now. We know why. Shout out to Jim Goodall. Let me know when you get back so we can get you on the show. Let's see, who else do we have? Pat Noble. Let's see. Shelly Montgomery, T-Bone, Trace, Richard Minnick. Let's see. Blue Cruise is here. Let's see. Drew Banky, Sniff Test. Yeah, right. Little Sparrow, Tarot, Super Crazy Movie Geek, Scott B, Jerry Carter, Frankie B. Welcome to the show, Kitty Cattywack, Lars Jansen. I think we're pretty much there. Let me see. He should be coming back here in just a second.
Very much appreciate you tuning us in. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Stormy Daniels, the Spooky Babe, will be joining us in hour number 2. But first, here in hour number 1, we are talking with Jim Goodall, the legendary, I don't even know, aviation historian, the man who has hair better than any man in Hollywood. And we are talking and celebrating the life of his good friend, John Lear, who passed away at the age of 80 just yesterday. And it is a big loss, not only for the aviation community, because he was one of the best pilots that America ever produced, as well as the UFO community, which is why we have Jim on here. What was John's love, Jim, for the UFO community?
I know. I think, any time our government doesn't want us to know something, that's when you want to start digging. That's when you want to start finding out stuff. And John, because of he's always been in the air, and he's like me. I go outside and I'm always looking up to see what's there. There's stuff that flies over people's head and they have no idea. But Lear felt it was interesting. He knew some people who had experiences, and he didn't do anything halfway. I mean, he got fired because he wouldn't back down. John used to go to cities where there were people who claimed to have been abducted. Now, these are normal, everyday folk, blue collar, some white collar, some very poor. John said none of them had triple-digit IQ. So they were average or below. And they had no connection to each other. So there were 15 of them that over a course of a number of years, he would make contact with them by phone. He may even fly in there and meet them in person and talk with them and say, what I would like to do is set up an appointment for you to be say I'll pay your way or whatever. I don't know if he ever compensated them. That wasn't even discussed. But I'm assuming he would have either picked him up and brought him to the hypnosis place. And out of the 15 people that were hypnotized, and the hypnotists had to be licensed, deep type of hypnosis therapy. And of the 13 people who had no connection to each other in any way, shape, or form had almost an identical experience under deep hypnosis. The other two, they were so blatant about what they were talking about that John knew almost immediately that they were full of baloney, and his suspicions were proven true. So he kept doing that, and he'd go and talk at UFO functions all around the country. And he'd do so in his captain's uniform for America Transair. And some so-called journalist in Houston found it offensive that a senior airline pilot for a major charter airline would believe in UFOs and even talking about where they can be found and where they this and that and whatever. And apparently this journalist got hold of Lear and says, I don't like what you're doing. You're scaring the people. And John says, my right. Yes, my right. And he said, well, if you're going to continue to do this, I'm going to make sure that the president of your company knows that there's a crackpot as a senior pilot. And I'm going to tell the public about that as well. So John met with the president of America Transair, and the president, who really liked John. I mean, John was the type of guy you almost had to like, because he's a real life cartoon character. That's probably the best way to describe a good part of his personality. But John was John Lear. I mean, I've never met anybody quite like him. He's outrageous, yet he's generous. He's a prankster, but he's also very caring. And I could just sit down and we could just chew the fat for hours and hours and hours. And all of a sudden you realize that, oh my gosh, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. And we've been talking since noon. I mean, just about everything. And he did most of the talking. I mean, he flew all over the world, and he flew in some of the most incredible countries before there was such thing as tourists going into Thailand or going to Cambodia or even going into the Middle East. So Beirut was in 1973 was the Paris of the Eastern Mediterranean. City was absolutely beautiful. And he said he's been back there since. the Civil War, and it just breaks his heart. And because of him, I met other people. I mean, John was the linkage for me meeting Art Bell, for me getting to know George Knapp, and for me getting to know George Norrie, and the list just goes on. I mean, it is. And I wouldn't be sitting right here if it wasn't for John Lear. Period. I mean, he was that special of a friend.
Now, he wasn't an experiencer himself, but he took to the topic like no other, especially with his knowledge and expertise in aviation. I know he saw UFOs, especially out in the desert with Bob Lazar. But for you, when you talked UFOs with him, how was his interest in this topic?
Well, he put his money where his mouth is. He walked away from probably $250,000 a year job plus bonuses and stuff when he wouldn't back down. When the president of ATA said, "Okay, all you have to do is promise me that you won't go into any more UFO, you won't go talking at any more UFOs, seminars or whatever." And John said, "That's my right to do that." The answer is, I will, I'm going to continue to talk. He said, "Well, then you're fired." And he called Mary Lee, and Mary Lee got so irate, she emptied out his office or his den or his study. I guess that's or mausoleum, however you want to put it. And she filled a small warehouse up of his dozens of filing cabinets. And John was to his neck of the interest in aviation and things that go bump in the night. The only equivalent as far as the level of passion would be probably Michael Schratt. And Michael, I think I introduced them about 15 years ago, and he went over and he probably saw John as much as I ever did by going up there and interviewing him. So he has quite a memory of the interviews. I just had the fun of going with him, doing crazy stuff. We went and spent a day at his mine, the Cutthroat Mine, and the government absolutely hated John having that land claim. And he missed a deadline by 3 days, and they wouldn't renew his claim. And the EPA came in and told him that he had to render the whole area. You had to bring it back to its natural habitat. So here you had, and it was, I guess it was some rare earth involved in John's mind, which would be useful today since we've cut our nose off to spite our face when it comes to titanium and rare earths. But again, John was one of those guys. He didn't have one incredible life. He had dozens of incredible lives. I know when he told me later that it was his mom insistence that William Lear write John out of his will. And because John would not take over the running of Lear Fan. And John had told his dad, I said, "You have 3 things on this airplane that won't make it past the FAA inspectors or certification. 1, no one has ever flown for private or business use a composite fuselaged airplane and wing." Says, "Next, it's a twin turbojet engine, turboprop engine going into a single gearbox, turning a single prop rear at the rear. That is something that's okay for helicopters, but it's never been certified for aircraft to be sold to the general public." And then I forget there was one other part of it, and it really upset Bill Lear. So when Bill Lear died, and there was reading of the will, John's there at the attorney's office. And he says, to my children from my first wife, and from Moya, I think it was his second wife. Everything is split evenly except for John Olson Lear. He gets nothing. And everything where there was something being split up among all of the children except for John Olson Lear, he gets nothing. So John said that following Christmas, it was, this is before the internet, of course. He and Mary Elise sent out, I think it was 25 or 3,500 Christmas cards, and it was Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to one and all, except John Olson Lear.
Oh,
and that was his Christmas card. So that's the type of guy that John was. I mean, he was a free spirit. He always swam, against the tide. He like me has his mouth has a habit of getting him in trouble.
Right.
Like I always said that, it was actually my TI in basic training. And he's the one that said in front of the whole squadron, he said, Goodall said, you have everything going for you but your mouth. And it's held true for the last 65, almost 70 years that I've been being a pain in the butt to people. And that's what I am when it comes to our government. I've been a pain in the ass. I'm proud of it. But again, I met Daryl Greenemeyer. He's the one that went to Greenland to recover the kiwi bird, the B-29, that was brand new, buried underneath the ice, made an emergency landing on his delivery flight. They were escorting P-38s, and Glacier Girl was the only remaining. It was the only one they were able to recover. And again, because of John Lear, or actually because of John Andrews, who was probably the original Spy One and one of the original UFO people. He's the one he's responsible for Bob Lazar's sports model kit of his UFO. And John Andrews was the reason I met John Lear. And John Lear is the reason I'm here today. So there's everything about that outrageous character. That he's a walking, talking human cartoon character. He was funny. He was brilliant. He loved to fly. He was a loyal friend. He was just he was just a man of all seasons. I'm happy that his pain is gone. He lived in such pain because of his feet and his legs. He'd been confined to a scooter, or not. He couldn't even get around on a walker because he was such pain. At one time, he was thinking about having his legs cut off, from the knee, down, because they were so damaged. But his last his last 8 or 9 years, he was under a tremendous amount of pain. He had a lot of turmoil in his life that, that just ended here just a couple of years ago. He went from rags to riches, back to rags to riches to rags again. And it didn't seem to bother him. I think it bothered Marilee, but it didn't bother him. But he was used to being the life of a brilliant man, his dad.
Right.
I mean,
Jim, I want to ask you because over the later years of his life, John became quite a controversial figure in the UFO world, and there's a lot of people like yourself who love him,
but there's probably just as many who thought that he was making up stories, that he was lying about this or getting false information and pushing it as truth. I don't think a lot of people questioned his smarts, but they wondered over the years if he was just losing it a little bit and starting to believe things that maybe weren't true. Did you ever see this in him?
Oh yeah, and I told him. I said that's bullshit. I said, oh, no, they're real. I said, well, you're the only one that I know of that's talking about, the underground tunnels from, say, Bellagio to Area 51 and up to Bayview, Idaho, and maybe over to someplace in the Midwest. And I said, John, I said, I would like to believe it, but I have never seen it. I've never seen any evidence of it. And then he said, well, an SR-71 flew George Bush, Herbert Walker Bush, President Bush 41, flew him to the Paris Peace Accords. It was an emergency, so they put him in the backseat of an SR-71 and flew him over there. And then he said the Russians have a captured SR-71. I said, John, I said, if you can talk about a lot of things, I wouldn't have know for absolute certainty this is real or this is fake. But when it comes to the Blackbird, I don't think anybody knows. Maybe they know as much as I do from a historical point of view, but not many. And I don't believe it. I said, you're full of baloney. And then he would back off. But I don't know. Sometimes you get into a groove, and it leads off this way. You didn't really have an intention of going off in that way, but since you're there, you might as well take advantage of it. That may have been part of it. I don't know. But John had maps, and he swore up and down that the underground facilities were real. When I last spoke to Dave Fruhoff, he was the SR-71 pilot that chased a UFO and it outran him. He ended up as the facility manager at Area 51. And he was responsible for 100% of the structures within the confines of Area 51. And he says from a paint locker to the biggest hangar to engine run-up area to the radar cross-section pole to the various radar units, the big SPS-13 at 25-meter dish on the north end of the complex. And he said, if there had been a underground facility, and he was the facility manager for 5.5 years, he said, I would have known about it. And I said, but at the Nevada test site, they have the equipment to cut through a 36-foot diameter hole through solid granite at about an hour, about a foot an hour going through. So the technology exists. And this is Dave Fruhoff's response, not mine. This is what he was telling me. And then he said, and you'd have to have some place to put the debris. You're gonna have to haul it out somehow. And how we're going to do that? So it's gonna be trucks. I said, okay, then you're gonna have either a heavy duty dirt and gravel road, or you'll have a paved road coming out of the facility. And I said, you can see Google Maps. I know they cooperate very closely with the federal government on not having the resolution in certain parts of this country has been the resolution has been reduced significantly, or it's just pixelated and you can't see anything. But our government wouldn't lie to us, almost like the Canadian government, right, Dave?
Right.
Yeah. So did John exaggerate sometimes? Yeah, he was an eccentric. He was outrageous in most everything he did. He was a swashbuckler. He was he was born at the right time of his life, where aviation had a total and complete effect on his DNA. I mean, everything about him was and stuff. If it flew in the sky, then he wanted to know about it. And that's when he started getting, more and more involved in UFOs, tracking down people who had been abducted. He was just a John Lear.
90 seconds left with you tonight, Jim, on the life of John Lear.
Wow. Well,
give us a quick rundown. Just your thoughts.
I am blessed to have known him. I endured some of his sick humor. We had a ton of fun together. And, John and I were on the desert. We had little red dots on our chests. And it's just, he was a one of a kind. And I've met some real characters, but he was there. He was at the top of the list of characters I've known. So it was, and it was my honor. I was blessed to have known him. And people come into your life because they're supposed to. I don't believe it was a chance meeting that I would meet John Lear. Same as it wasn't a chance meeting that I was to meet the golden voice of BC, Central BC, Dave Scott.
Oh, you're way too kind. You're way too kind. And Jim, I want to say thank you so much for coming on in short notice to talk about the life of legendary aviator John Lear. And sorry on behalf of all of us at Spaced Out Radio for your loss of your good friend. And on a positive note, my friend, I'm very excited to see you in just a couple weeks here at the SOR fan party in Las Vegas, April 22nd to 24th. So thank you so much, Jim.
Hey, what do you mean? You gave me 3 minutes notice.
I did. It was 5. It was 5.
Oh,
Jim
I'm sorry.
The legendary Jim Goodall. Coming up next.
Adios.
Another legend. The spooky babe herself, Stormy Daniels, first time on Spaced Out Radio, and we are going to get all spooktacular with her talking ghosts. Yeah, let's shift it over to Paranormal next on the Mighty SOR. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Now, my YouTube audience can see us and hear us. I just want to clarify that.
Okay.
So, thank you for coming on. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for having me.
Now, do you want to just do an hour because we only had you scheduled to 11, or would you like to go to 11:30?
11's fine. I have to work tomorrow.
Okay. Then we'll do 11. Perfect. Perfect. We appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, no worries. I'm excited.
Me too. I'm Dave, by the way.
Nice to meet you, Dave. I'm Stormy.
Pleasure. And the audience is picking up now. So we're just on a radio break right now. So that's kind of what we're up to. And that's why we're kind of just.
Let me hop on in here for a second. Yeah, so Dave Scott, Stormy Daniels. Let me go ahead and just sure we don't miss anything here. So this is where, obviously recipes to John Lear, as Jim knows him better than any of us ever would. So, when Jim can speak tongue in cheek and say things like some of the stuff that John Lear was saying was unfounded. And, I think we all know that, but I don't think you let that overshadow what a person has done, the good the person has done for a particular cause. And, John Lear had his hands in making sure that this conversation stayed on the forefront, stayed in front of as many, media outlets as possible. So regardless on what he was delivering during those instances, he was definitely keeping the spotlight on ufology as a whole and keeping the conversation going, right? And that's you always got to respect that and give props to that as well. But as we transition now, obviously we see Stormy Daniels on the screen, right? And so this is where it gets interesting, right? Because I know you're going to come in with some preconceived notions of how this interview is probably going to go. And I got to tell you, you're probably going to be wrong. I would definitely make sure you're tuning in, and it gets really interesting. And you can tell that that she actually knows what she's talking about. I'll say that straight out. She definitely sounds like she knows what she's talking about based off of things that are asked during the interview. And then Dave is obviously the consummate professional. We know, we know what industry she's famous for, but it doesn't come up. Doesn't come up as a topic, which shows professionalism, because that when we're talking about ufology and humanity and what we're doing here, that part of it doesn't matter. So, think you guys are going to enjoy this. She's definitely going to probably shock a few of you based on knowledge and things that just the way she comes across as far as speaking on the subject. I was shocked when I saw the interview, and like I said, I walked away from it with the whole newfound respect for the seriousness in which she's taking this subject. So, like I said, if you want to see her live on the After Hours, let me know. I'd be honored to actually interview her. She's very intelligent as well. You'll see that here. So let's go ahead and take a look and jump right back into the interview and conversation here.
Are you doing this?
Is there still an echo? Somebody said there's an echo on my voice.
I'm weird. Not getting an echo.
Yeah, I'm not either. Okay, just making sure.
No, we're good. Just saying hello right now to everybody who's coming in to our chat room right now.
Yes, it is the Stormy Daniels, Sierra. It is the Stormy Daniels. And you're going to be shocked. So stay tuned.
I'm going to turn my phone off. There we go. Okay.
I was throwing snowballs today.
Where are you?
I'm way up in central British Columbia, about 5.5 hours north of Vancouver.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cold. I'm in LA right now, but I live in New Orleans.
Yes, I'm getting excited when I get closer to chasing Bigfoot season.
There's a Bigfoot season?
Oh, yeah, well, it's all year round, but you got to realize in my area where the snow in the mountains gets like 5, 6, 7 feet high, sometimes higher in the higher elevations, you got to wait for it to melt before you can get to those spots.
I have a friend who's very much into hunting Bigfoot.
Bring them up here. My buddies and I, actually, my audience knows this story, but my buddy Merle and myself and our armed guard, my buddy Mark, actually we're doing a paranormal investigation out at a plane crash site that is still Canada's largest unsolved mass murder from 1965. And Merle was doing the paranormal investigation, and we ended up getting chased out of the forest by a pair of Sasquatch.
Really?
Yeah, it's insane story.
Did you actually get eyes on them? You saw them, or you just heard them?
We heard. Well, the one was talking to us, and then we didn't even put 2 and 2 together, and then it snuck up on my buddy Merle about 20 feet behind him and was really freaking him out. And as that was happening, simultaneously about 100 feet away from where our buddy Mark was, there was one coming at Mark through the forest right in front of Mark.
No.
Now, Mark has been a outdoorsman his entire life, and he's like, dude, whatever that was, it was on 2 feet.
So is it true that they have a terrible smell, or is that just urban legend?
I have never smelled them, but then again, with my hockey nose, Does not surprise me. Can't smell a thing. Hey, comes with the territory. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, there's my friend is very much into hunting Bigfoot and the whole theory that they're interdimensional, being, and that's why they seem to. I mean, how do you lose something that big? You know what I mean?
Right?
So they're obviously either able to be invisible or go to a different plane. I'm not sure.
You've been doing quite the tour of all the podcasts lately.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Yeah, it was originally because I was promoting some of the appearances, the paranormal investigations, and then a lot of people obviously wanted to have me on after the whole thing that happened, when the fact that I do paranormal and investigate and that I work as a medium and oracle card reader was brought into the court battle. And I know my attorney, he's a wonderful man, but I know that my attorney was really hoping I would just say that it was scripted so that it would go away, but I couldn't do that. I stood my ground, and
for you.
That's why it made headlines, because Michael Avenatti grilled me for 5.5 hours to try to convince the jury I was crazy because I work in paranormal.
Well, I mean, we're all a little loony. I mean, the government can't even figure out whether or not they're chasing UFOs. We have about 15 seconds here, so
Okay.
I'm just going to get you to just shh for a quick second, and then we're going to be on our way until the bottom of the hour when we take a break. Okay?
Got it.
Here we go, everyone.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Warfinger. Warfinger is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Hey, you know her name, you know who she is, and you know that she is now one of the biggest names in the paranormal industry. Stormy Daniels is here, and her team is called Spooky Babes, where they go around to some of the most haunted locations in the United States looking for ghosts. Now, this is a big turn of events because her name has been in the news lately, but you know what? I don't care about that. I don't. I'm Canadian. It doesn't matter to me. All right? I'm here to learn about Ms. Daniels' very intriguing, very convincing ghost stories. Stormy Daniels, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. How are you?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
Very glad you are here, and thank you for taking the time. You know, you are someone who has been a big name for well over 20 years. I think you're, I think people know that you are now into the paranormal. You're getting your grasps on being a famous ghost hunter, kind of thrusting yourself into the whole scene. Has the paranormal always been part of your life?
So I get asked that question quite a bit. And it's funny because now that I'm involved in it so heavily, I'm remembering stuff that I experienced when I was younger in my past that I didn't even realize at the time was paranormal. But I would say that just like everybody, heightened sense of intuition, but maybe mine was just a little more keen. Think of somebody and they call, get a bad feeling about going a certain way, so you go a different way, and then you find out there was an accident, or just get a bad vibe about a person and then find out later that they harmed somebody else. But I always had like one or two big undeniable paranormal things happen a year my whole life. Something where you're like, okay, what the hell just happened? There's no denying that. And if you actually go to our Spooky Babes Instagram and scroll way back, you'll see a video that I took 12 years ago of something really crazy that happened in a hotel room. So it was things like that. When I was 23, I predicted my then stepdaughter's death. It was, very traumatic. I remember standing at the kitchen sink and washing dishes and had this horrific vision. And I ran out to the garage and told her father, my then husband, and of course, nobody wants to hear something terrible like that. And he didn't want to hear it. He actually accused me of trying to start an argument between him and his child's mother. And I'm purposely not saying names. And so I kind of dropped it. And 5 days later, we ended up burying her. And it was so traumatic and so freaking horrible for me that I kind of turned everything off. And then, as everybody knows, I became very popular in the adult industry. I got very busy. I was in my early 20s. I was living in LA. So, it was, I had friends. I was going out. I was living life. I was figuring things out, traveling a lot for appearances, shooting movies. Like, I was barely home. So it was kind of easy to block that stuff out. And then 3 years ago, I moved back to Louisiana, where I am from. And I moved into this beautiful home in the Garden District. And, I remember telling the person that I moved with, my then boyfriend, that I feel like this place is haunted. And of course, he made the joke, everything in New Orleans is haunted. And he's not wrong. I mean, it's one of the most haunted cities in the world. Everybody knows that. It's one of the only places it's the only place that I've ever seen where real estate signs explicitly say haunted or not haunted on them. This is a real thing. I mean, you could Google it. It's hysterical. And so it wasn't the fact that it was haunted that was so strange or unusual, but it was the level. It just, things escalated in this house very, very quickly. And the house, or whatever entity or thing was in this particular home, did not like that man. He lasted about 5 weeks in the house. Once he was gone, I stayed another 9 or 10 months before the house seemed to turn on me. And it didn't do that until I was given notice to move out. And the only reason I loved the house, I knew it was haunted, but I never felt like I was in danger. And I'm talking like the craziest stuff was happening. 22 people stepped foot in that house, and 21 of them will tell you that they had an experience. And a lot of these people don't even know each other. And I ended up putting cameras in the house and got some pretty unusual stuff. But, it was knocking and sounds and things being moved, and just that feeling, that presence, that you're always being watched. And he had bad experiences. Like I said, he got held down in the bathtub. He had sleep paralysis. There was shadow figures. Things wouldn't be where you left them. Loss of time. All of that kind of stuff. And the whole reason that I started doing paranormal investigations is because things escalated. Like I told you, I lived there for quite a while without anything negative happening to me. Like, stuff would happen, but I didn't feel like it was aggressive or negative necessarily, until I said I had to move. They told me that I needed to move out because the owners, who live in another country, wanted to do some remodeling and tent the house for termites. And so they needed it to be vacant. I didn't choose to leave, but as soon as it was known that I was moving out, it's like the energy in that house turned, it changed, and it became, the last 2 months I was there, it got very, very heavy, very dark, very negative, weird, like infestations and smells, and just, it was bad. My mental health deteriorated very quickly, which is something I never struggled with in the past. And then when I was in the process of moving out, my best friend, Justin, actually had something happen to him in the bathroom, which seemed to be a hot spot. But the whole reason we started the show is because as things began to escalate, Justin was a paranormal fan. Like, he watched all the television shows. He knew all the names of, high profile investigators. And so we reached out to several of them to see if they would come in and tell me what was going on, to look at some of the footage that I had filmed, that my security cameras had picked up, things I had recorded in the house, any sort of explanation. And nobody got back to us. And finally, it just got to the point where he was like, well, if they won't come to us, we'll go to them. Pretty brilliant looking back. So now as you know, that, a lot of people do these public investigations where you can basically buy a ticket and go, an investigator paid to go to an investigation at a known haunted location. So that's exactly what we did. We went to a famous location in Mississippi, and I wanted to know, first of all, if I have these people cornered, I can talk to them and show them what I have on my phone and these things I was picking up. But also I will be able to see if it's the house, if it's me, if I'm crazy, all of these things. And I also wanted to prove to the guy who moved into the house originally with me that what I was seeing and experiencing was real, because he tried to dismiss it, even though he had the worst of it. Like, the things that happened with him were worse, but I don't know if he blocked it out or if he convinced himself that it wasn't real, or perhaps he truly doesn't remember. So we go to this location and the house lit up, and I was able to peg things, and it got pretty intense. And from there, the lead investigator at that location, his name is John Bullard, was like, what is up with you? Because I was able to pick out some spots in the house that they didn't tell me were specific, and I was able to get names and places and things that happened. And he goes, I think it's you. And he actually had a doll in this house in a glass case that he contacted me 3 days later and said, Stormy, you have to hear this, because he was running audio, obviously, during the investigation, and he got an EVP of the doll. And he said, you need to check your footage. And we had been filming, obviously, and I hadn't even downloaded the cards. I hadn't checked the footage yet. And sure enough, I downloaded the footage and went to this specific conversation, because my partner Justin was speaking and the doll responds, but we didn't expect her to respond. No one heard her. And as soon as I loaded my footage and went to that spot, it was in my footage too. You can actually see that clip if you go to this YouTube channel, it's Spooky Babe's show, and you watch our trailer. It's about halfway through is that EVP. And from there, it was like, okay, let's go to one more place and see what happens. And then it was like, okay, let's go to one more place and see what happens. And then, as everybody knows, that was, March, April of 2020, and things shut down. And I had a whole tour booked for adult nightclub appearances and sold out comedy shows. I was doing all the House of Blues for my stand-up comedy, and it got canceled because everything shut down. But I already had the tour bus rented, and it's like, what do we do now? Well, the good news is ghosts don't get COVID. So we just ended up going on this 1.5-year trip that just opened all of these crazy doors, and we got some incredible footage. We have like 14 or 15 episodes in the can. But we stayed the night in the Conjuring House, the Lizzie Borden House, Vale Mansion, McIntyre Villa, McNutt House, Beatty Mansion, Ashmore Estates. So, we went to all the big places, and my skills developed, and we brought in guest investigators that validated that we were legit. And then I started reading. I don't do tarot, but I do oracle cards. And from there, being in New Orleans, the word got out that Justin and I were this, paranormal team. So I would say we probably investigated between 15 and 20 known haunted locations, where we paid to investigate and film, but we've probably done close to 50 residential cases at this point. If you'd have told me 2.5 years ago when I started this that it would be my job now, I would have told you were crazy.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you, because you really jumped in both feet right into the deep end of the woo here, and for you, how have you changed as a person, knowing that all of this is going on, and that you have found this love for paranormal and ghost hunting and everything that goes in between?
I don't even have an answer, really. Every time I think something crazy, like I've seen the craziest thing, something else happens. You know what I mean? You cut out for just a second, so I missed part of your question.
Well, I was just asking, how have you changed as a person yourself now that you've taken the paranormal world on as your next project, as your next job?
I would say that's a great question. I wish more people asked that, actually. So the two things, one is that I I'm not afraid to die anymore.
Not me.
Yeah. Are you afraid to die? I'm
Petrified.
petrified. See, I'm not as scared as I used to be because I know there's something else, and I love adventure. So I'm like, it's just going to be the next adventure. Now I am afraid of pain and suffering, obviously. Like, nobody wants to be miserable. So I hope when I go, it's peaceful or quick, but I'm not afraid of actually dying anymore because I know that there's something else, and I really want to know what it is. The other thing I would say is the biggest change for me is that I don't think that I'm not going to say nothing surprises me anymore, but I think that anything is possible. You know, you could be like, hey, Stormy, there's a unicorn in the kitchen. And then I would be like, you know what? Maybe there's a unicorn in the kitchen, because the things that I have seen in the last 2.5 years, I mean, I would have never imagined it was true. It's kind of like all the things that you thought were stories or false or myths or legends or whatever are real. You know, we were legit, you know, before we came on the air talking about your friends and you getting attacked by
that's much.
If we had been having that conversation 3 years ago, I'd have been like, this guy's off his rocker. But now I'm like, oh, what did the Bigfoot smell like? You know what I mean? Like, nothing. I never say never anymore, because literally anything is possible. I have seen crazy things. So I think those are the biggest.
We got to get you up here to British Columbia and investigate Flight 21.
Okay.
And
I'm down to do anything. I mean, anything. I'm down.
Yeah, because you never know what's going to happen out there. There's a lot of animals that are out there that could kill you in my area. And yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to die by grizzly bear or something along those lines, right? Maybe mountain lion. I'm a meal. What can I say? Every time I go out there, I'm putting my life in danger. But nonetheless, you know, I mean, the fact that you were finding all of these adventures, and you know, I had a really good talk with a mutual friend of ours, Dave Schrader, who is like, Dave, you got to get Stormy on your show. She is absolutely incredible. She is a wealth of knowledge for somebody who has been in this field for just a short amount of time. Why have you become so studious about this? Because for a lot of us, like myself included, I'm not a ghost hunter. I'm a journalist by trade, and I'm an experiencer. And but when I go out, Stormy, I'm all about, what do I get to see for me? I don't care about anybody else. But for you, you're actually trying to figure out a lot of these mysteries.
Right. Well, there's a couple different reasons. I think the reason I took it so serious, maybe more than somebody else just getting in, is one, I'll just be honest, I had the luxury of it being the right time, you know. Like I told you, I had a tour bus booked. I had money set aside to do one thing. COVID happened. Everything shut down. I was relieved of my schedule. Basically, no one was shooting. No one was booking clubs. All of my appearances got canceled. I had the money set aside to make content one way. And like I told you, ghosts don't get it. So I was in the right place at the right time with my crew. And I had the luxury of time and money to do it. A lot of people got really angry when I started filming because they thought, oh, somebody just gave her a show because of her name, or she's trying to get out of porn and this is whatever. It's not fair that we've been in the field for so long and we didn't get a show, but a lot of people don't understand. I paid for it. I didn't have a rich producer. I spent almost $300,000, but it was mine. You know, like I own it 100%. Anybody can have a show if they want to pay for it. So once I, you know, cleared up that rumor, people were a little bit nicer to me. The other thing is, I went through such a traumatic experience in that house. I mean, I moved in there with a man that I was madly and truly deeply in love with. And we had lived to make it very clear, we had lived together in another location. So this wasn't your standard, oh, we were good apart, but once we lived together, it fell apart, because that does happen. Some people can't cohabitate, you know. That was not the case. This person changed, and I watched it happen. And the last day, the day that he attacked me, I looked in this man's eyes and there was no color. And I put cameras in the house, and no one would help me. And I thought I was going crazy. Of course, anybody who went into the house backs me up 100%, but like mostly no one would help me, and I never wanted anybody else to feel like that. It was a horrible, horrible feeling to be alone and to be scared and fighting something that you don't know what it is and you can't see it. And people are not only not doing anything about it, but some are openly attacking you. And the third reason why I jumped in so seriously is because so many people were gatekeeping. I didn't expect people in the field to be so nasty to me and think that just because I work in porn or because of politics, which I know we're not going to talk about, but because of who I am, that I shouldn't be allowed to do paranormal.
Yeah, that is typical of this field.
Or that they thought, oh, she's too old and washed up to do adult films anymore, so this is her new get rich quick. First of all, no one gets rich in paranormal. I can make the joke, I do porn to pay for paranormal, not the other way around. But they were just they thought I was a blonde idiot, a big boob bimbo. Like, what could I possibly know, that I was faking everything? So most people, when they get in, they might start at 0 and they have to prove themselves. I started so low that I had to fight just to get on a level playing field. And no one took me serious at first. I'm very blessed to have met Dave Schrader and have the backing of him. My first big supporter was Aaron Sagers. And he's well known. He's well known for being kind of a skeptic. So to have the backing of a skeptic was very important to me. But there are so many other people, and I won't mention names because it's not necessary. It doesn't matter anymore. But who were very rude and talked ill of me and my skills and my gifts, who have since apologized and welcomed me. And I really owe a lot of that being taken serious to Aaron Sagers and Rachel Fine and Dave Schrader and David Childers. But a lot of people were super nasty, so I had to work extra hard to prove myself. And so I think it's just kind of all of the above. But basically, I just wanted to know what was happening. I wanted to understand. That's how I deal with things. That's how I conquer my fears. It's hard to be afraid of something if you know what it is. You're afraid of the dark, turn the light on.
But in the end, I mean, you are a human, just like us listening. And I think I'm human, even though I live in the middle of nowhere and wear a lot of plaid at times. But I mean, the idea behind it is, these are moments in the paranormal where many of us have had experiences that we want answers. And do you find now yourself, now that you've been doing this for a couple of years and you're getting a feel for how idiotic the community can be? And trust me, I do a show here 5 days a week. I get it. I know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to criticism and spite and hate online. A lot of us go through that in this field, but for you've been able to deflect it. You've been able to bounce it and just concentrate on what you're doing. As we got about 90 seconds here before we go to break here at the bottom of the hour, Stormy Daniels is our guest. Is there something that you want to find personally that you are dead on tracking that is a personal goal of yours?
I would say 2 things. One, what makes I have a lot of things that I've discovered tend to be at every paranormal, like most haunted locations, and I want to understand what makes an area so likely to be haunted. You know what I mean? Because they seem to be in clusters, these areas. So it's not just a traumatic event. Traumatic events happen all around us every day and doesn't automatically equal a haunting. And the second thing is, I want to know what is in that house, because I'll tell you real quick that the house I'm referring to, I no longer live in it. I moved out. 4 people have lived there since I moved out because I became friends with my neighbor. My daughter played with his son. So the guy who lives directdirectly across the street from my old house has filmed 3 of the last 4 people who live there have left in an ambulance. So it was not me, and it is not just me. And I want to know what's in that house, and I want to go back and deal with it one day, but I don't feel like I'm equipped just yet.
I just love your enthusiasm for this. I do. I think it's contagious to a lot of people. And I think, you know what? If you're having fun, go for it. That's what I do. I just know how to speak on a microphone. That's pretty much my talent right there. Hey, everybody, this is Dave on Spaced Out Radio. And we're going to go to break here momentarily as Stormy Daniels is our guest. Spooky Babes is her team. We got her for another 30 minutes here on the mighty SOR. And we're going to get into some of her favorite stories that she has gone through. Maybe, hell, we got to convince her to come to Canada and go into the forest wearing some camouflage and get chased by Bigfoot and Dogman and check out some UFOs in the sky. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. That was a fast half hour.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thanks.
Good stuff. I hope we're doing okay for you.
No, it's doing great. Yeah. Sorry, it's been a long day, so I'm like, it's taking me a second to fire.
Oh, you're doing fantastic. Doing fantastic. Do you wear ball caps?
Yeah, I do actually.
All right.
Especially in airports.
How about this? Because you got my phone number. If you text me your address, I will send you a Spaced Out Radio ball cap.
Oh, that was
All right, just jumping in. I think she's doing pretty well. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think, she's a lot of the slow or jargon that's used within ufology. I mean, she definitely understands what it means. Someone said her spidey senses are impeccable. Yeah, I mean, that's some of the things you have to have. You can tell that she knows what she's talking about, right? Regardless of what she used to do or if she still does it, who knows? It's her business. And I'll tell you what, anyone that can help find the answers is welcome to the conversation. And that's what I put here on the screen. I don't care what any of you guys used to do before you decided to get answers for humanity. I really don't. I mean, it's not that I don't care. It's just that I wouldn't judge any of you out there on anything that you used to do, right? We all probably done things in our past that we, may not be so proud of today, truthfully. I know there's a couple things I could think of that I'm not proud of from my deep past. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter, because once that moment happened and I found that awakening moment, then guess what? It's all about this. And I could care less if anyone were to say anything about anything that I've ever done, because I know at this point in my life, I'm focused on humanity. I have a positive outlook. I put positive energy out there into the world. And I'm doing this not for selflessness or for my own benefit. I'm doing what I'm doing because answers apply to everyone. They don't just apply to me. It's not just me looking for my answers. I'm looking for answers for everybody out there, right? And so I welcome anyone who steps into the field who is doing that as well, because at the end of the day, whether it's paranormal, UFOs, anything within this field, it all has to do with progressing humanity, getting us the answers that we need so we can make better decisions in the future. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at. So I think she's doing great. I have definitely reached out to see about getting the interview as well. And we'll see what happens. So hope you're enjoying the interview tonight as we go ahead and jump right back into the second half of this interview here. So let me see. Anybody's talking about anything out there? Yeah, I mean, talking about what she used to, or the porn aspect of this is just silly to me, truthfully, because she's in porn because you're watching it, apparently, right? So then now do we talk about you because you're watching the porn now, right? I mean, come on now. I think we can all be a lot bigger than that and a lot more come to this with a lot more of a grown-up outlook on and look at a person as a person and kind of move forward, right? I think we can do that, and I think we will. So let's go ahead and keep this thing going.
It would be awesome. I would love that.
Yeah, it's our We Own the Nightcap.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's kind of appropriate.
Yeah. Well, if I'm going to blank you off the screen, and if you take a look at the big screen, this is our stuff here. Hold on. aliens.
strange that I'm very much into the classic paranormal, like what most people might say is like a ghost. UFOs or alien stuff was not even remotely on my radar up until a couple months ago. And now it's just like, it seems to be like just one thing after another that I can't explain. I had dude, tonight, I mean, not tonight. I had a weird experience this week in a movie theater. Like, I can't even, I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
The hardest question we're going to ask you tonight is right now.
Uh-oh.
I asked this of all my guests. It's controversial, so just be prepared.
Okay.
What is your opinion of eating breakfast foods for dinner?
I think breakfast food.
Wait, before she answers this, Dave asked the breakfast for dinner question, and I am so intrigued on what her answer is. Let's see.
It is appropriate anytime.
How about this? Because you got my phone number. If you text me your address.
Let me make sure I get that back here right where we missed it.
Jose, yes. Steve, nice. Oh, just, you people are sick. All of you. All of you. It's breakfast foods for a reason. Human Carl's back. Holy cow. Human Carl. Oh, I'm all excited now. Human Carl's back. I have to call him Human Carl because Alien Carl actually showed up at my window during this broadcast in 2015.
That's unsettling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm reading some of these comments and Joe Smith literally it just made me laugh. Sometimes I see two large orbs on Stormy. Love the double entendre. I'm sorry. I'm like a 12-year-old boy sometimes. That's really freaking funny.
Oh my gosh. My audience is awesome.
They really are.
Yeah, they are amazing people. Amazing people. Marie, you can eat breakfast at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock a.m. in Vegas because it's breakfast time. Mm-hmm.
It's always 5 a.m. somewhere, right?
Joe Diamond, I don't think we'll have time for that tonight. Our good friend, magician Joe Diamond, would like to try a psychic trick with you.
Oh, gosh.
I don't know if we'll have time tonight. If we could have done the 2 hours, I'm pretty sure that Stormy's having a good time with us and you guys, that we might be able to convince her to come back one day.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk some ghosts, and then we'll get Joe Diamond on. You know what? How about my birthday show? Would you come on my birthday show?
What's your birthday?
May 24th.
May 24th. I think that's actually completely doable because I need to go to Iowa on the 25th or 26th because I have this whole ongoing thing with the Villisca Axe Murder House. So I'm going back.
Okay. So May 24th. Magician Joe Diamond's going to come on my birthday show. My buddy Ian, whose birthday is May 24th, will be here as well. You'll come on the birthday show, and we'll party it up. We'll talk some ghost stories. Joe will scare the shit out of us with his magic, and then we'll get going on that. Cool?
Perfect. As long as there's cake. We can't have birthday without cake.
I have ice cream cake.
That's my favorite. What flavor?
Vanilla and chocolate and fudge in the middle, Dairy Queen. Here we go. Hold on.
Okay.
Now we can make a big deal about Dave wanting ice cream cake, right? We could do that, but we're not, right? Because we understand people have different ideas of what they like. I like cake and I like ice cream cake. But Dave, you got to change your ways, man. You got to change your ways. Breakfast for dinner is epic. Everyone in the chat says so here live. And back in time, back on March 30th, 2022. Get it together, Dave Scott. Get it together, sir.
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Best job in the world, sitting in the microphone chair. What the hell did I just call this, a microphone chair? No, sitting in front of the microphone in the broadcast chair here at SOR headquarters. Geez, I'm all verklempt right now for my birthday show in, let's see, 7 weeks. 7 weeks. We got to get through Vegas first for the SOR party, April 22nd to 24th. But nonetheless, reminder to all of you out there that if you have missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Paranormal adventurer Stormy Daniels from her team, the Spooky Babes, is here, and we are finding out all about her paranormal adventures because she has had quite a few over the last few years since she jumped both feet into the woo pool. And you know, we love our woo around here. Stormy, welcome back.
Thank you.
Very glad you're here. You mentioned during the break that you're just getting into the whole UFO encrypted thing.
Yeah. I mean, it never occurred to me. I have always believed in aliens. it would take a pretty arrogant person to believe that we are alone and that the UFOs aren't real. I mean, that's not even something I ever entertained, that it's not real. But it's kind of just started to come up over and over and over. A lot of really weird synchronicities in the last probably 3 months or so. And it kind of led me to wonder if some of the locations and things that we've been attributing to paranormal, as in spirits, ghosts, traditional haunting, classic idea of something being haunted, could maybe be UFO or alien. And I use this as an example that I'm sure I'm not the only person to have this idea, but this is the way that I explain it to people is, imagine you are sitting on your sofa and you are sitting with your family and you look out your window and you see this thing outside standing in your yard, and it's described like it can look a certain way. Now let's assume that you are perhaps living in a more traditionally Christian, very follow the Bible, don't really watch secular TV. You know, we can go extreme. Let's say you're like Amish or something, you know what I mean? And you look out the window and you see this thing, and your mind is automatically going to say it's a demon, you know? And then you take that same exact scenario with someone who perhaps lives in a city and they watch movies and they don't really go to church, and they, you know, have graduated from college, and they see the exact same thing and their mind goes to alien. Now, literally, it could be the exact same entity, figure, whatever you want to call it. But I think that people are seeing the same things, but using different words. And I think it has a lot to do with how you were raised, what your religious beliefs are, what you've been exposed to. And it just makes me wonder, are people misidentifying energies and things? And we can take into consideration that it's none of these things, that it's not paranormal, that it's not alien, that it's not supernatural in any way. What if some of the things that people are seeing are truly a completely natural earth phenomenon, and it's just an animal or a natural species that we can't see? Just like, you know, certain animals can't see certain colors. People say dogs are colorblind or whatever. I've been told that horses can't see the color yellow. I don't know if that's true or not. I have horses. I still don't know if that's true. So what if there's these things that are coexisting with us that are completely natural, that we just don't have the color spectrum or the way of seeing them? I don't know if you've ever looked up that people actually have stripes and we can't see them. So there could be like things living around us right now that we just can't see. And every now and then somehow somebody does, you know what I mean? And so there's just so much that we don't know. It kind of is mind-blowing. Sorry, I kind of went off.
Oh yeah. Well, we do glow as humans. We
Mhm.
just can't see it with our eyes.
That's
That's
yeah.
what yeah. So I do want to ask you about your horses for a second. Do they ever get fairy braids?
No, my horses have really short manes because they're only about 4 inches long because they're show horses, and that's the length you have to have for
Right.
for braiding, you know. But I know of those. My horses don't particularly. Their manes aren't long enough.
Yeah. We also had a number of listeners over the years who have been in Sasquatch territory who have claimed that their horses' manes have been actually braided into really cool patterns. And it's believed Sasquatch does this.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I learn something new every day. I'm pretty sure if my horse saw a Sasquatch, they wouldn't get close enough. They would be like, no, peace out.
Well, you know what? There's some rumors as to what it is. Some say it's like a part of the mating ritual.
Wait, they're not mating with the horses, are they?
I'm just going to nod my head on that one, and the audience could figure it out.
I am so done. I'm so
Yes.
done.
It's true, though. It's true. This is what people are actually researching. But moving on, let's go over to Sri Lanka, where Kaysen has a question for you. He says, Stormy, so do you do the ghost thing as a side project or almost full time now?
So it started as a curiosity, and then it was a hobby for just a moment, and then it became full time because other things weren't going on, like I explained, because it was during the lockdown and COVID and whatnot. And I would say all of 2021, it was my full-time job. I exclusively, or I would say almost exclusively, about 85 to 90%, that's how I made my income. I did 250 readings in 2021, and I think Justin and I, my partner on the show, Justin Luke, I think we did about 20 residential cases, and he also became Reiki certified. So I would read cards and do channeling, and he would then do Reiki. He's an amazingly talented healer. It just comes natural. He didn't even need to get certified. We just did it for legal reasons because, I mean, this boy can do things I can't even explain. He just is naturally gifted. And then, of course, as I explained earlier, that nobody gets rich off of paranormal. So slowly, as things have started to come back and bookings have picked up and appearances and gigs that pay a lot better, it's not that I'm not still doing a lot of paranormal, that I don't want to do readings. It's just I've had to split my time between what I'm passionate about and what I want to do and what's smart financially for me. And if I could sit here and do readings for people, and I can only do so many in a day because they exhaust me. Or I could go do a paid appearance and make 10 times more. So right now it's kind of a balance, I would say.
For you, as you've kind of delved into your spiritual side of life here, have you had any teachers or gurus that have kind of held your hand to walk along that line, because it can be not only difficult, but at times dangerous?
Yes. Like I said, at the beginning, they thought I was full of crap, and then I had some people that were definitely fake, and I knew they were fake, and I won't mention them because nobody would even know who they are because they're nothing. But as soon as you start putting yourself out there, you turn the light bulb on, you attract not just the butterflies and the moths, but also, the bad bugs too. So I had a lot of people be like, oh, I see, can I train you? I have a message for you. And I'm like, you're so full of crap. So I had a lot of leeches at first. But now I'm very lucky to have some people who know what they're doing. I am so incredibly fortunate that next week I'm going up to Northern California to work with Rachel Lang. And she reached out to me. I've gotten some readings from her. I used to get readings from Carly Sacred down in Florida. She's very gifted until one day she was like, girl, I'm not reading for you anymore. Do it yourself. And we have gone from client to friend. She actually ended up being on several episodes of the show. For those of you who want to watch the trailer, go to YouTube and type in Spooky Babes Show, and our trailer comes up. Carly's in that trailer. So yes, I've been fortunate to be able to work with some people that, David Childers he's not a medium, but he's a respected paranormal investigator. He really helped me learn how to use the devices and the tools and all the equipment, things like that. So yes.
When you go through your own intuition and everything that goes along with learning that side of you, what did you learn about yourself that you didn't know before? Like, a lot of people out there don't know what it's like to communicate with spirit or know that heavy feeling on your shoulders when something paranormal is around.
I would say that I learned I'm a lot braver than I thought I was. And I've really learned to trust my intuition. And it's probably also one of my biggest regrets, because thinking back, like I told you at the beginning of the show, the first time I had really that feeling when I was 23, I should have stood up for myself a little bit more and been more adamant that something bad was going to happen. And maybe my friend's daughter would still be here. But I think, yes, that I'm braver to trust my intuition, and that we also are very, very ignorant. And I'm not saying that some people are very stupid. Some people are very stupid, but I'm saying overall, there's just so much we don't know. And if I start thinking about it too much, it gets very overwhelming. Because there's just so many things that we can't comprehend. We don't comprehend, that we don't know.
Very true. I have a couple of audience questions here for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because we always like to include them in here. Donnie is asking, Stormy, what is your process in protecting yourself from negative entities?
We do a lot of things. So we travel by tour bus. The bus is locked down. Obviously, we holy water and salt everything. We wear, protection. We never go alone. Justin and I don't investigate separately. When we have other investigators on the show, there's always somebody. Nobody is ever alone. We keep an eye on each other. We check. We have safe, almost like other things that require a partner. We have safe words. And then we just make sure that we don't instigate, we don't provoke, we try not to piss anything off. And then when we leave, we make it very adamant that you can't come back with us. You have to stay here, all of those things. I also really try to keep an open mind when we're in a location that has an intelligent spirit or an entity, something that's not just energy or a loop or a stain. Or I'm sure your listeners are aware of all the different types of hauntings, that you kind of have to talk to them on their level. Like, am I a hardcore Christian? Absolutely not. But if you're dealing with an entity that is, just like, you're not going to go and talk to a ghost of a Buddhist monk about witchcraft. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of have to be listening to what they believe in and the power around your words, if that makes sense. But mostly we just look out for each other. We do cleansing baths. I currently live in a church in New Orleans, which is a whole nother story. But that place is very protected and locked down, and we do cleansings, and we also ground. Everybody on my crew and my team takes their shoes off and grounds outside before and after every investigation. But but accidents still happen.
Pinzer would like to know, what do you think about dreams?
That's a very, very broad question. I think that there's science, just a simple scientific explanation. That's like saying, like, what do you feel about food? Some dreams are nothing but your brain going through a process of what you did that day. Like, but I think what he's meaning is, what is the difference between like a dream and whatever? Because I do think that messages come through dreams, and your subconscious may be giving you messages, or something else can be giving messages. I've been trying really hard for the last, I guess, year to control my dreams, or to astral project or lucid dream, and I cannot do it. My 11-year-old daughter claims she does it all the time. I came home from a trip like 2 weeks ago, and she blew my mind, because I don't really talk to her in depth about this stuff. I don't want to scare her, obviously. And she told me that she's been gosh, what did she say to me? I recorded it because I filmed her because it was so mind blowing. She said that she goes to a different dimension in her dreams. I hope I'm explaining what she said correctly. And that in her dreams, her bedroom is the same, but she ran an experiment where in her dream, she moved a toy. And then when she woke up, it was moved. So was she sleepwalking? Was she able to do it? But she swears that she has these plants on her windowsill in her dreams, and she takes care of them. And every time she goes back, they've grown or flowered, and she doesn't have them here. And she said like her dad is the same, and he tells her to do her homework and whatever. And then she was like, but you're never there. I'm like, maybe I don't exist. And this little brat goes, maybe you don't. I'm like, oh
my. Oh my. Astral traveling's fun.
I can't do it. My kid can. I mean, I can. I just haven't figured it out yet because we all can, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. Toe Tag would like to know, most people discover their gifts through trauma or insights. How did you discover yours?
I think I always had it. Like I said, the earliest memory that I have and of anything weird happening is I was between the ages of 3 and 4, and I remember that because I know what house we were living in. That's how I'm sure that that's the age. And we lived in this house in Idaho that had a basement. And this is one of those examples of what I was talking about earlier, how I didn't realize certain things were paranormal until I got into the paranormal. And looking back, like almost every week, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have this memory, and I'm like, that was paranormal. I didn't know it at the time. But we had this house that had a finished basement. My mother, I think my dad had workout stuff down there. The laundry was down there. And if the door was open, I never wanted to go down there, which that's not unusual. Who wants to go into a basement? Nobody, except, of course, that's what I do for a living now. Go figure. But anytime I walk past, if I look down there, I saw a shadow on the stairs. 3 years old, you don't know what a shadow figure is, but it's definitely that classic. As soon as I found out about shadow figures and how so many of people say that they have this hat, I was like, oh my gosh, I saw that when I was 3. And I know I saw it multiple times, and he would just be standing on the stairs looking at me. It was around that same time that I remember my mom taking me to this high school gym that was set up with like an obstacle course, and you had to match certain shapes. Looking back now as a parent, I understand that it was just a placement thing to decide if your kid goes to preschool to kindergarten. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh, put the shapes, match the shapes, or they'd yell out, only step on the purple carpet, and motor skills, colors, shapes, recognition. No big deal. Nothing strange. Except during that same process, we went into this office, and it was just this metal desk and this lady. And to age myself, my mom was sitting next to me. This is how long ago it was. She was smoking a cigarette. So that's that's how old I am. And the lady was talking to me. She asked me some questions. I remember exactly what shoes I had on because one of them was untied. And I'm sitting there kicking my feet. And the lady had a pencil, and she's holding it from the tip on the thing and has her thumb on her index finger on the eraser. And it reminded me of that scene in The Craft, but you have to keep in mind this happened decades before that, movie came out. And she's holding it, and she goes, okay, now you make it stay there. And she moved her hand, and I was able to make it stay and move a little bit. And my mom looked over and saw it and gasped, and it scared me. And so I haven't been able to do it since. And I don't know why she thought to ask me that. I want to know what I had done to have brought my mom into there. But that's kind of the first thing. I know that a lot of people have either a brain injury or some sort of near-death experience. I didn't have anything like that. A lot of my friends that I've made since being in paranormal have very similar stories that I don't have, but similar to each other. I have a friend that was in a horseback riding accident and hit her head and was in a coma for a while, and she is like this now. I have a friend that I work with that died during a simple operation, like a surgery, and was dead for a few minutes. I have another friend that, this is before I met them, that attempted suicide, and when she was much, much younger, and develop gifts. So I do know that there are certain things, but nothing like that happened to me, at least not that I know of or can remember.
What do you want to experience?
Ooh. Well, I guess astral projection would be cool, and I don't know. I think I don't know. It's that goes into the basket of be careful what you wish for. I don't want to.
You know, my guru, when I started having my experiences in 2011, my guru, his name is Pascal. He took me out for a drive on a dark night, about 11 o'clock at night. And the first thing he says to me is, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? And I was like, all the way.
You're like, tie a rope on me and call me Carol Ann.
just let's go. Let's go. And I'll tell you, the things that I have seen in the last 10 years, well, everybody says, oh, I got to write a book over this. I'm still 2/3 of the way through mine, but it's unbelievable, you know, but you're right. You have to be careful. You have to be, you know, on your game, and you have to make sure that it's not going to affect the people around you either. We got 2.5 minutes left with Stormy Daniels tonight from Spooky Babes. And Stormy, this has been fantastic. I wish we had more time, but for you, what's coming up for you paranormally?
Oh, okay. So let's see here. The next thing we are doing is I'm going. So there's a place that's very, very cool. For those who are listening that want to check out something paranormal or do a paranormal investigation, it's in Bel Air. It's the Bel Air House, Bel Air, Ohio. And I went there and we did an investigation last October that people could buy tickets and investigate with myself and Justin from Spooky Babes and then some other investigators. And that was the first night. And then Justin and I actually stayed a second night, just me and him, and had one of the scariest things happen. I missed it. I happened to be using the restroom at the time, but whatever scared him so bad, he burst in on me and knocked me off the toilet. And I peed all over myself and him on the floor. It was very, very funny. But I got a vibe that when we were there, that it wasn't this particular house, that it was the whole town. And I could not shake this feeling that it was something about the town. And then I ended up reading her book. Kristen, the owner of Bel Air House, wrote this book, and I read it. And there's so much going on there. It's got all of those things I told you that I look for. It's on the water, but there's a lot of UFO stuff. So it's paranormal stuff going on. Town tragedy. It's on Native American land. It's under some constellation. I don't want to get the facts wrong, so I encourage anybody to Google it for yourself and read about it. But long story short, we are going back there for 4 days in April to film not just at Bel Air House, but the entire town.
Awesome.
The owners invited. So that's coming up. And then I am doing an investigation filming for a television show. A television show is following Spooky Babes, and we're going back to the Old Park Hotel in Texas, Bellinger, Texas, I think is how you pronounce it. And then I'm not really sure what we're going to do next. I know I get to go to Scotland and investigate in October, and I'm sure I'm getting something very important, but I can't remember right now.
You're missing Canada and my birthday. Stormy Daniels, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio. I know it was abbreviated. We had you scheduled for 2 hours. Next time, though, we're going to have a lot more fun with you. Thank you so much for coming on. And coming up next on the Mighty SOR
is Rob G. Coming up next on the Mighty SOR. So that was awesome, right? Awesome. So we don't need to get into the hour 3 stuff. The main important part was getting the interview in there, which we did. So, yeah, I mean, how do you feel about that, right? This is the first time you've seen Stormy Daniels in this sort of light, in this field, speaking about the phenomenon. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Would you like to see her back? Would you like to see Stormy Daniels back? If so, put ones in the chat. Ones in the chat for everyone who wants to see her back on the show. Because I'm interested in what she has done since then as well. It's been over 2 years since this interview, so I'm sure she's been into a lot more stuff, and there's ones all over the place. There's ones everywhere. There's ones everywhere. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I love it. So yeah, so that's what we'll try to do. I've already tried to go ahead and reach out and see about having her back on the show here. Thing is that you have people out there that when you sort of try to filter out who's in it for the right reasons or not, right? You can tell when someone speaks about the phenomena if they really are engaged with the phenomena. And that's kind of what I walked away with when I watched this interview the first time. Yeah, I didn't feel like she was simply here talking about the phenomena. I felt like she's had experiences with the phenomena. And then that's a different thing, right? Because as most of you know, and me specifically as well, because I came into this, within the last few years, but it was an experience that really drew me in and let me know, okay, this is real. And then now you're looking down, and a lot of the questions she answered in the ways that she did further let me know that there was something that brought her in, and now she's looking for the answers to everything else, which ends up being the journey that we're all on. So I can appreciate that, and I respect that, and I like that. And I would definitely love to see, where she has gone since this interview. So ones are been ramping in the chat. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that we're on top of that. I already sent out some requests as we did the show tonight. So we'll see what comes of that. And, we're obviously going to keep bringing you the stuff that you want. I put out a post on Facebook as well about new guest ideas for Spaced Out Radio, and more specifically the after hours show, since I'm the one doing the booking for this show. So I want to know specifically who you want to see on the show, and then I'm going after those individuals to bring them on. So make sure you go to the group Facebook chat post on the Spaced Out Radio page, where you'll see the link there. Just put the comments under there. I have a few people already responded to that, and I've reached out to those people as well that were listed as potential guests. So let's keep that going, because I want to make sure that the people we have on here are the people you guys want to hear from. We will definitely continue to do this. And just like Aloha Dave said, in his opinion, Stormy was very authentic. And that's what I wanted you to kind of feel out for yourself, because that's how I walked away feeling it. I didn't know what to expect when I went into the interview. I didn't know if it was going to be this gimmicky thing where, okay, this person from this other field is now in this field and they aren't really taking this seriously. That's kind of how I walked into it, not really knowing what to expect. But when I walked away, based on the things I heard her say and the way I heard her speak about the phenomena and the interest in her face and in her eyes when she talked about not knowing things and wanting to find things out, that let me know that was authentic and that was real. And we need everyone to wake up and realize that the phenomena is real here, as we always say every night here on the After Hours show. And it's we got to wake a person up one person at a time. It's just always great to see that happening. This is her new mission in life, and I would love to see other people doing that same thing. So with that being said here, okay, yeah, you say Lester Nair. Yeah, all these names, Super Crazy Movie Geek. If you could, I'm going to write that down, because I don't know if someone's going to put that on the Facebook list or not. But Lester has been on the show before, and I would love to speak to Lester for sure. So let me write that down here. But to make it easy, anyone who is already on Facebook, if you could go to the Facebook post and put it all there, because I'm going there daily and I'm looking to see who has been added to that list, and then I'm immediately reaching out to those people to try to lock them in for an appearance here on the show. I think if you missed the show last night, I think you missed a good one, because we had Reed Summers here talking about the alien intent. So if you missed that, as we're about to end this show, make sure you go and watch it, because it's in our archives. Our archives are completely free right here, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. I think that was definitely a good one that moved this needle. And I would love to have more of those type of people come here on the show with conversations that are really going to mean something, that you could walk away from the conversation with new data and maybe a new outlook even on what we're dealing with here with phenomena. So With that being said, let me just look through the chat and thank everybody who came here on this archive/live show, right? I've done this once before, but I think as we do this, if it ends up, if I'm not completely out of the office, for whatever reason where we have to run an archive and it's just simply like a guest issue, then we'll do these live archives the way that we're doing them now. And I think that'll be a good thing. I like this here. LVL saying, please don't forget to smash that like, y'all. Tomothman, yeah, Rob is here, right? Let me see. I think we have a live show set up over there at the Social Dig. Not a live show, but a pre-record. Let me find that out before we get out of here for the night. I think we do. Because we'll be doing them every Monday now since we have all the other live shows going on over there already. Let's see. I'm pretty sure we do have one set up for tonight. Let's see, 9:22. Actually, no, it's set up for tomorrow. So tomorrow night, right after the show with Dave, and actually I'll be on the show with Dave, I believe, for like a moment or two tomorrow. So we'll be able to talk about kind of what happened tonight and other things. So make sure you're tuned in to Dave Scott tomorrow. Also Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday as well. 9 p.m. Pacific until midnight. And then we'll be right back here at the after hours on Saturday. We got Deb Shakti coming next week. I love Deb Shakti. And I love speaking to Deb Shakti. She is such a positive person. Her energy is like up here. And she's in this for the right reasons too. So make sure you're back here at the after hours for that show. But tune in tomorrow with Dave Scott because I know I'll definitely be on there. And then right after Dave Scott, we're going to be running a program over on the Social Dig. And then business as usual with the live shows. You guys already know. If you haven't considered doing it, go on over to my page and hit a subscribe. We got great stuff going on over there. We did a few shows last week. Catch up on those. Really awesome content. Appreciate you guys coming on in. Tomothman, Nikki, everybody who's come in tonight, Jessica S., Love Be Love, Aaron Baca, Jay Trueseeker, The Radio Wendigo, Dead Fish Cheese Spread. Let's see who else. Sierra, Super Crazy Movie Geek, Susan Place, Resonant, Aloha Dave, The Mac Geek. Let's see, Alex Sanchez. These are all names that came in later. Walter, can't pronounce your last name, but you know who you are. And let's see, Ron Ivy Forrest as well. And Carl Bittner, everybody else, I said hello to you guys earlier. So with that being said, we're going to end this one early. Go ahead and do something fun, right? Go do something fun. We're going to wrap it up just like this. You guys have a great rest of your night. Glad we could at least get something going on tonight, the After Hours radio show. I will see you guys actually tomorrow during Dave's show. So with that being said, you guys all take care. Please hit the like button on this video as well. Even though it's an archive, we did a live archive. So we would love for you to hit that like button and show your love for what it is that we do here at Spaced Out Radio. Outside of that, let's run this ugly swag commercial because we don't have ugly swag. And then we'll run the outro. You guys have a great rest of your night.
Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have Spaced Out Radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com. Shop there today. And make yourself look good.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.